and welcome to the Sew Along for this variation of the Ray Underwire Bra and Godiva bodysuit, featuring a V-wire opening cutout. Hello, I'm Maddie from Madalynne Intimates, and we do everything DIY lingerie, from DIY kits to lingerie sewing patterns, both Madalynne patterns as well as patterns with simplicity. We also do lingerie classes, workshops, and retreats, free tutorials just like this one. You can also find Madalynne on social media, Instagram, Pinterest, TikTok, Facebook. With many collections, I like to incorporate new sewing techniques. One of Madalynne's patterns with simplicity, the 9478, features a V-wire opening. It's been a couple years since that pattern came out, but it is still such a vibe. As the kiddos are saying, it still slaps. So that was the inspiration for this variation, was to incorporate a cutout V-wire opening in the Ray Underwire Bra and the Godiva bodysuit. Now, I like this variation for two reasons. One is that many people avoid, like it's the plague, cutouts, especially cutouts in areas where there's more flesh, skin, fat. But this variation, the location of the V underwire, the sternum, doesn't tend to have any bulging like cutouts in other areas. Also, the location of the V-wire in this variation helps with tacking, which is a common issue with full-busted as well as plus-size people. Now, one thing that I want to mention or call out before we get into the sew-along is that this sew-along is going to assume that you have some bra-making knowledge. So it's not going to go over every single step of the construction of the Ray Underwire Bra, such as how to sew fold over elastic, how to add a hook and eye. That I'm going to assume that you already know. If you need help or instructions, please check out Madalynne's book, Sew Lingerie, which contains these patterns, the Ray Underwire Bra, as well as the Godiva bodysuit.
Let's first start off by going over what you should have cut out, because the key to successfully sewing is to have everything cut out correctly. In this example, we are using the Ray Underwire Bra and the Godiva bodysuit, bra cups and frame. And you might be thinking, wait, how are you using two patterns? That is because both patterns, which come from the book Sew Lingerie, use the exact same bra cup pattern pieces. The frame of the Godiva bodysuit is just an extended version of the Ray Underwire Bra. To give you an example of that, this is the center front frame. This is the side frame of the Godiva bodysuit. If I lay the Ray Underwire Bra frame pattern piece over that, you will see that the wire seam line is exactly the same. So I am using the frame pattern pieces of the Godiva bodysuit with the bra cut pieces of the Ray or the Godiva, since they are the same. And then the back bands is an altered version. I go over how to create this version in the sew along for the Godiva bodysuit, because straight out of the pattern, the Godiva bodysuit is backless, but if you want to add a back band, I go over that in the sew along. So for all of these pieces, for all the front pieces, have been stabilized. That means that all the front pieces are non-stretch. The back band is stretch. So the top cup is just a single layer of the galloon lace. The bra cup pieces, both the center front and the side cup, are a layer of the printed mesh, then a layer of the just regular mesh, and then a layer of the sheer cup lining. Yes, that is 3 layers, but they are very thin layers, so it just does not feel thick at all. The frame pattern pieces, the same thing, is that a layer of the printed mesh lined with a layer of the just colored mesh, which comes in your kits, and then lined with a layer of the sheer cup lining. We use the just colored mesh in between the sheer cup lining and the printed mesh, because the printed mesh is so sheer that we like to use those colored meshes to make that print pop. If not, it can kind of become like transparent and you don't really see the print. Same with the side front frame, a layer of the printed mesh lined with a layer of just a plain mesh, and then lined with a layer of sheer cup lining. Now these lace pieces It is up to you. That is the beauty of DIY me-made lingerie, is that you can kind of place these at a diagonal that works for you. I really liked that the scalloped edge on the center front frame was going in this direction, so I wanted to mimic that on the side front frame, but you could have them going this way, you could have them going anyway, so don't feel that you have to do this. Now I like this way, so if you do it that way, it works. So for this front piece here, the only thing that you want to note is that, or remember is that, we will be sewing this together at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So what I did when I was cutting this out is that I laid this on top, or I folded the center front frame on down the center. And then when I was placing the lace on top and kind of determining what angle I wanted it, when I cut it out, I made sure to add a 1/4 inch to this edge, knowing that I would have to seam it to another layer of, or another scalloped edge in order to create that one shape. So now that you have everything correctly cut out, hopefully, the first step is that you are going to put right sides together of this center front lace. You are going to sew it with a 1/4 inch seam allowance straight stitch from top to bottom, back stitch at the beginning and the end. You don't have to, but I would recommend doing a small zigzag along the scalloped edge, just to hold it down. And then just go ahead and sew the bra cups as normal. Now in the book, it does give instructions on how to clean finish it. We are just gonna sew this right sides together. I actually have these backwards. Straight stitch, back stitch at the beginning and the end, and we're just gonna fold it to one side and do a top stitch with a zigzag stitch. Same thing when attaching the top cup to the lower cups, is that we're just gonna do a straight stitch. We're gonna press those seam allowances down and do a top stitch with a zigzag stitch. I will show it all to you when it's finished. Cups have been sewn. As you can see, we did not clean finish. Just press the seam allowances to one side, did a zigzag top stitch. The lace overlay on the side front frame stitched down with a small zigzag stitch. Now you might be thinking, what zigzag stitch width and length should I use? So it will depend on machine. I wish there was some sort of standard from machine to machine, but there is not. So you just have to do a kind of like a test sew and get a small zigzag that looks similar to that, in the ballpark of that. Then stitch or sew together the center front overlay. I haven't sewn that down because we'll do that in the next step. Now, how do you create that V opening? So V wires come in lots of different shapes and lengths and V widths, whatever you want to call them. So as you can see, this one is a little bit wider than this one. This one is a little bit narrower than that one. So you can use several any kind of V opening. You might have one from a previous Madalynne kit, the 9478 Madalynne Simplicity 9478 uses a V opening, or maybe you got this from an Etsy shop, whatever. But I don't want to discourage you because you don't have the exact V wire from this kit or whatever, that you can't do this alteration or variation. You can use any V wire. I'm going to show you how to cut it out based on the shape of your V wire. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to lay this over the overlay. I'm just going to pin it in place for right now. Then I'm going to take this V wire, I'm going to put it inside the channeling, and I'm going to give about an inch at the top or on either ends. If I can get it inside this channeling, there we go. Now you can see that the V wire ends like right there, and I'm giving a little bit, maybe like 3/4 or an inch on either side. I'm gonna give it a little bit more, just in case. I'd rather have too much than not enough. Okay. I'm gonna cut off the excess. Now I'm gonna place it on here. Now the thing that you need to keep in mind is that you need to give enough clearance or room for the underwire to be sewn in when you attach the bra cups to the frame. So you need, there needs to be at least, I would give like 5/8 of an inch, 1/4 inch for the seam allowance, sewing the bra cups, then sewing the channeling, then flipping the channeling down. That's a 1/2 of an inch, but you have turn of cloth. So I would recommend doing like 5/8, 3/4 of an inch from the fabric's edge to where your wire, your V wire should start. If not, you're gonna break a needle when you sew the underwire channeling to this. So once you have that, you're like, okay, I want it to be right here. And you can go higher, lower, you just have to have enough room for the underwire. Once you have it in place, you will cut this away. And what I did is I'm also gonna pin this in place. And there are several ways you can mark it. You can mark it and then cut it. You can just cut it. But you want to cut away the same shape as the V wire. I should really have a ruler with me, but it is not here. So I am just eyeballing it. So now I've cut that away. If I place this over, I'm just going to double check. That's good. Yeah, that's good. So now I'm going to use this as a template. I'm going to cut the sheer cup lining out, because what we're going to do is we're going to sew the sheer cup lining, and we're going to use that as kind of like our base, and we're going to sew everything regularly. And then once everything is sewn, we're going to cut this away to create that little cutout. And I'm going to shift this over, because you have to add seam allowances. Oh, it got stuck, okay. For where it's going to overlap, and I'll show you. So there needs to be seam allowances, because when you put this over that, you need something to sew it to. If you cut it edge to edge, then you couldn't sew them together. So I'm going to pin that in place. So now let's just double check that this will work. If I place this over this, yep, okay, I like that. So now the next step is you are gonna sew this down with a straight stitch, back to beginning to end, and then you will secure this lace overlay with a small zigzag. Sheer cup lining has been sewn down. Also, the lace overlay has been sewn down both onto the front frame. The next step is to, oh my goodness, we're gonna sew this down with the V wire inside. I know the thought of sewing something with an underwire inside the channeling can give some people the heebie-jeebies and they get really scared, but you can do it. Now you are gonna place this over that V opening, and don't worry if there's like anything showing behind, because once everything is sewn together, we're gonna cut all of this away. And you are gonna sew with the straight stitch on either side of that channeling. Just go really slow. In this case, slow and steady wins the race. You're gonna get as close to that one edge as possible, go all the way down, go all the way back up, and then go on the inner edge, as close to the edge as possible. Even if you have to hand crank the whole way, slow and steady wins the race with this one, or saves you a broken needle. Wire opening slash channeling, whatever you want to call it, has been sewn to the front frame. Now you are going to assemble the rest of the bra as is. So basically this sheer cup lining is serving as a guide so that you're not sewing through nothing and just air at this point. So once everything is sewn, then we're going to cut away, but don't worry, I will show you exactly how to do that. Bra has been sewn up to the point where the fold over elastic is attached to the top of the back band slash strap points. Now you can do this interchangeably. You can either cut away the sheer cup lining, then insert the underwires, or insert the underwires, then cut away the sheer cup lining, whatever you want. The end result is exactly the same. So you're going to cut this away and just as close to the channeling as possible. Please, please, please don't cut into your channeling. And then you can go on the back side to maybe get a little bit closer. That's about as close as I'm gonna get. Okay, so now you will insert the underwires. Remember that the color tip goes on the center front. I also recommend at the center front, at the center front edge, at the top of the frame, to just do a tack that's a little bit more secure than normal. Because again, that tack is the only thing that is holding it together, and you want that to stay together. So I would just do a tack that is a little bit more than your average tack. Okay, and once the underwires are in, then you will proceed. Oh, I love that. I love that. You will proceed with attaching the photo elastic, the hooks and eyes, the straps, and then I'll show you that little bow detail that we did on the center front. Bra is complete. Now the icing on the cake are these little bows. Totally optional, but if you are like me and the more bows, the better. I will show you how to make them. So it's just this 1/8 of an inch ribbon. I like to just tie it in a knot first, make it super long. Tie it in a knot, and then make a bow. And then make those bunny ears smaller. Tie it tight. And then I hand sew it on. You can do one, you can do both, whatever you want. That is the beauty of Me. So that is the sew along for this variation. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that if you had any reservations, maybe thought that V underwires or wires are confusing, that this made it a little bit more approachable. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to pop them in the comments below or email hello@madalynne.com.